Why did medieval feudalism end? Have you ever wondered how a system that dominated Europe for centuries could just fade away? The end of medieval feudalism is a fascinating story filled with social, economic, political, and environmental changes that took place mainly between the 14th and 15th centuries. Let's break it down. Feudalism was a system where land was owned by nobles who granted portions to vassals in exchange for military service and labor. Peasants or serfs worked the land, creating a rigid social structure. But this system began to crumble due to several key factors. First, the Black Death, also known as the bubonic plague, struck in the mid-14th century. This devastating disease wiped out as much as 60% of Europe's population. With so many people gone, there was a severe labor shortage. Surviving peasants and serfs found themselves in a position to demand better wages and working conditions, or they simply left their manors. This shift weakened the social and economic bonds that feudalism relied on. Next, wars like the 100 Years' War, which lasted from 1337 to 1453, changed the power dynamics in Europe. Monarchs needed large, professional armies instead of relying solely on feudal lords and their knights. This shift diminished the military importance of feudal lords, reducing their traditional roles and influence. Political changes also played a significant role. Centralized monarchies began to gain strength as kings sought to limit the power of feudal nobles. They often found support from emerging middle classes, such as merchants and townspeople, who were outside the feudal hierarchy. This centralization reduced the autonomy of local lords and shifted power away from them. Economic transformations were another factor in the decline of feudalism. The rise of towns and trade created a new class of capitalist farmers and merchants who operated outside the feudal system. These groups promoted market-oriented agriculture and commerce, which contrasted sharply with the land-based economy of feudalism. Environmental crises also contributed to the decline. The Little Ice Age and the Great Famine, which occurred between 1315 and 1317, caused crop failures and food shortages. These hardships destabilized rural economies and led to increased social unrest, further weakening the feudal order. Lastly, technological and military innovations, such as the longbow and cannons, changed the nature of warfare. This made traditional feudal knights and their castles less effective in battle, reducing the military dominance of the nobility. All these factors combined gradually eroded the social, economic, and political structures that supported feudalism. As a result, Europe transitioned toward more centralized states and market economies, marking the end of an era. The decline of feudalism was not just a change in governance. It was a transformation that reshaped society and laid the groundwork for the modern world.